Welcome to PA Voter Information Network. This is Larry DeMarco, your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of PA Voter Information Network. I am your host, Larry DeMarco, and today we are here with Dr. Mark Roseman. He is the founder and CEO of the Toby Center and a child custody consultant. Doctor, thank you for being a guest on PA Voter Information Network.
I'm delighted to be here.
My pleasure to have you. Doc, you're an expert in child custody. What got you interested in the field?
Thank you for asking. Over 20 years ago, I was in what is frequently referred to as a high conflict divorce. And as a result of my experience and working through these challenges within the court system as well as outside the court system, it certainly motivated me and propelled me into the field.
And then you founded an organization called the Toby Center. Could you tell us about the Toby Center's work and what you do there?
Sure. The Toby Center, which is named for my mother, Toby, is an agency that really grew out of my child advocacy work around the year 2000. At that time, I incorporated what was called the Children's Rights Council of Connecticut. And we worked with parents that were having difficult times accessing their children. We sought to bring the messages of the importance of joint custody to our society in Connecticut through radio, TV, and print media. And the role of the Toby Center really evolved from my work in Washington, D.C. as the Assistant Director for Child Access, co-managing one of the largest networks of supervised visitation services in the country. And I moved to Florida in 2010 to create the Toby Center, which had as its nucleus bringing parents together with their children when they've had limited access, when the courts have been struggling with how to permit access between a parent and a child, when that parent is a non-custodial parent, a non-residential parent, or in Florida now called the away parent, all terms which are detestable. But I created the Toby Center to provide, as our elevator speech is, to provide multiple services for parents going through separation, divorce, and child custody. And those services are court-ordered services. They include clinical services as well as non-clinical child access services.
Why is this work important? Tell us a little bit about the trouble these families are undergoing during a what you call high conflict divorce.
When our listeners now may hear the term high conflict divorce, when they may hear the term of alienated parents, when they may hear terms of shared parenting, these all relate to the challenges that parents have in accessing the children through mediated agreements, marriage settlement agreements, through court orders. And this work is really critical because the outcomes that the federal government has acknowledged threaten our society. Now, that's not simply a bold statement. It's based on the research, Larry, because the research shows that children who do not have two loving and nurturing parents in their lives, either as a bio-nuclear family, where children and both parents live together in the same household, or subsequently, if there's a divorce or a separated couple and the parents and the children are living with one parent most of the time. The statistics tell us that these children are subject to alcohol and drug abuse, juvenile crime. In fact, it's increased for girls if you look at gender stats. These children are subject to causing bullying. These kids are subject to teen pregnancy.
Being bullied, I'm sure.
They're certainly vulnerable. But a lot of the kids that do bully, it's been found, it's because they don't have the attention that they would normally have if they had two loving parents engaged in their lives. Kids who don't have the trust and the support, the emotional support of one or both parents to tell them, you know what, Bubala, you're A-okay. You're a wonderful person. You're so capable. You have such a mind. Ignore what messages you're hearing from others. It's their messages. It's not your message. And your message is what you hear in your home. The trauma that people suffer when parents split, particularly for that 30% of the population, which is characterized by high conflict. It's feeding crisis in this country. If you look at the mass murders in schools, more than 80% of these murders are caused by kids who have one parent. They're from single-parent households. And we find that 40% of public school children are products of single-parent households. No more than 70% of children in this country graduate high school. We also find that 40% of kids in public schools are on behavior modification prescriptions. And there may be diagnoses of ADD and ADHD. That's fairly common. But the sadness is that kids are acting out because of the absence of love in the home, the absence of two parents that really want to be or need to be involved in their children's life, as the 70% of kids from parents that split do have. And I think that these statistics should cause outrage among our policymakers. It should cause outrage among all those that have the responsibility to improve child outcomes when parents separate.
How does the Toby Center address these problems?
We do supervised visitation, therapeutic supervised visitation, both distinct. We provide family therapy and we provide reunification therapy. We work with family court clients in a good 70% of our work, and about 30% of the families that we work with are coming from, in many states they're called Department of Children and Families, DCF, might be called Human Resource in some states, as in Maryland, but much of our clinical work comes through in helping children who are in temporary foster care becoming reunified with their bio parents. What's really extraordinary is that the need that parents have for maintaining access to their children is frequently blocked by one parent who has as their mission to sabotage that process, or by the courts that are insensitive, or judges who are insensitive, don't really understand much of what a parent is appealing for when they're coming before the court to have access to their children.
You wrote a book addressing a lot of what you're discussing here, didn't you, Doctor?
I did.
Can you give us a little bit about what the book addresses and a little bit more about the problems that these families are going through during these, let's call it again, high conflict divorce?
The book that I've written is called Preserving Family Ties. It's an authoritative guide to understanding divorce and child custody. And it is addressing much of the significant research to help those who either want to modify or add to family law in their own state. It helps parents who are pro se, or it also helps attorneys, family attorneys, and judges, as well as case managers and therapists to understand the motivations that parents have in wanting to remain involved in their children's lives, but also to understand the research that says, you know what, we need to do things differently if we're going to have a more positive effect for children. And that compulsion was fed, number one, by my own experience many years ago now, but also in seeing and hearing and speaking with so many parents around the country who have been pushed away from having access to their children. So if we as leaders in our society and in each state, which has their own governance of family law, if we within our society understand the damage that's being caused, the possibilities for improving the outcomes for children by reducing the poor decisions in child custody, and if we can give guidance to all those who have the opportunity to provide intervention, whether you're a member of the clergy, if you're an educator, if you're a pediatrician, if you're a therapist, if you're an attorney, if you're a policymaker, if you're anyone that has any influence with parents who clearly need some guidance, then this book is for you.
What do you want to see changed? Where do judges get it wrong and courts get it wrong?
I appreciate that question, and I have come to the belief, as others have, that if we are going to make improvements in our society, particularly within the realm of family court or dependency court, in Florida, where I'm based currently, dependency court, oftentimes it's juvenile court, which handles the same cases where children are removed from a home temporarily. If we're going to see improvements and change, then the most significant way to do that is to certify a judge being capable and professionally trained to oversee these cases. You cannot succeed if you're having someone come from criminal court, from civil court, from juvie, dependency, and family, and rotate consistent criminal. You cannot expect there to be any understanding of what happens in family court and to have a dedicated judiciary. And there needs to be a dedicated judiciary, and I recommend that there be certification of judges who feel and are committed to improving society. Because you know what? We're going to see increased negative outcomes that the government has clearly stated, which I've reflected moments ago, and we are going to continue to see tragic consequences and the need for more jails, and we're going to be burying more kids who are victims of other children's assaults on them, or those who have taken their own lives because they've been over-medicated or they've been overdosing on alcohol and drugs.
If I understand what you're saying, Doctor, it's not so much that you're pointing the finger at individual judges that say drop the ball, but it's more a systematic society problem that puts these people that aren't trained in charge of such a highly specialized, sensitive, delicate, technical area.
Yes, that says it succinctly, but also consider that most judges in family court don't want to be there. If you ask them off camera, right? If you ask them officially or unofficially, you're going to get more honest answers unofficially. And the unofficial answer is they don't want to be there. They can't take the pressure. It's highly confrontational. It's highly emotional. And it's also damaging because many of our representatives within the court system today are young enough to be products of divorce, of divorced parents, and of an extremely unpleasant childhood where they've witnessed parents' interactions, where they themselves have been victimized in domestic violence situations. And you cannot have these people be the one seeking retribution or making decisions, possibly, and I'm speaking of possibilities, but possibly interfering with appropriate judicial decision making. And I think these are people that really need the help, and we need to find that judiciary that will really be committed to working exclusively in family court. And we need to change the court structure. So it's not only those that are making the adjudication, but it's those that are providing services. And there are other services that should be provided within the family court context.
A lot of problems happen to children and between high conflict divorces. And what causes families to make these bad decisions and set children and parents apart from one another?
At the onset of a separation, for certainly this 30% group of parents in the high conflict, highly conflicted population, that this population be given the opportunity to meet with therapists, to understand their state of mind, to meet with family services representatives from the family court system so that their state of mind can be shared. Because no one who is angry is capable of making decisions that are logical and that are empathic and that are mindful of children as well as themselves and the other parent. So yes, the answer to that question is anger. And that anger happens, I ask anybody and all those that are watching now, think what it is like when you were dating prior to marriage, when you were dating someone at any time in your life and you broke up. What was that breakup feeling like? I taught family studies for a number of years at the University of Rhode Island and also in Connecticut. But I asked invariably, I would ask students in my class, most of them were women. I think I only had 2 or 3 men out of 7 years teaching these courses, which is unfortunate. Men need to be involved in family studies courses. But when I've asked people if they've ever broken up, I said, don't move a muscle, don't flinch, stop. Look at your hands. Hands are like this. So what does that mean? It means that when we are angry, we're seeking retribution. We're seeking to get even. We want to punish. That's a normal behavior. It's not abnormal. So it's not narcissism. It's not borderline personality. It's not pathological. It's normal. This is human condition. We get angry. We want to punish. Now, if we learn how to deal with anger, then we'll be in a better frame of mind to be able to accept. And I have a 3-step process, which I'm sure I stole over the years, but I must share it with you, if I may.
Please, I was going to ask you to do it anyway.
Well, thank you. Acknowledgement, recognition, and support. We need to acknowledge where we're at in life. Usually it's a traumatic event or something that appears traumatic to us, something that's very disappointing to us, that causes anger, causes discomfort. If we can acknowledge where we're at, why we're feeling angry, why we're feeling uncomfortable, why we're feeling fear, if we can acknowledge how we're feeling now, then that's a good thing. Pause as you begin to reflect on how you're feeling. And then step 2, recognition. You need to recognize that this is either a positive set of feelings or a negative set of feelings. And so, as part of recognition, you need to ask, am I happy? Am I happy being miserable? Am I happy causing misery to others? Where would I prefer to be? And that's the bottom line, Larry. Where do I prefer to be? With support. The support of friends and family who love you and care for you, who validate you. And if you don't have friends and family to support you, then start a support group, because there are others like you. And so with support, know that you can get there. And very few people can get anywhere without any support. Very few people.
Doctor, let's leave it there, but I want to thank you for being a guest on PA Voter Information Network.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for caring.
Please come again. Hope to have you again.
Thank you.
We have been here with Dr. Mark Roseman, and I am your host, Larry DeMarco. If you like this interview, please share it with all the people on your contact list and social media friends. Signing off. Tune in next time. Bye for now.